Let us talk about what's happened with Donald Trump overnight,
Sure.
because, I mean, on one level, it is extraordinary. This former president, would-be presidential candidate and frontrunner to the Republican nomination for 24, has been, I mean, not found guilty, because it was a court of law in New York. It's a civil case, so you know, he's not found guilty. But if they did rule on a balance of probabilities rather than beyond all reasonable doubt that he'd sexually abused this magazine columnist, Jean Carroll, back in the 1990s in a New York department store. Bergdorf Goodman, basically, you know, taking her into a lingerie dressing room and assaulting her. Now, they ruled that she hadn't been raped, as she had claimed, but they ruled that she had been sexually abused by him and that he had defamed her, crucially, because the whole point of this case was her bringing the case, saying she'd made this claim in a magazine article, and he said it was all lies. He'd never met her, didn't know who she was. She's saying, no, you've now said I'm a liar. She's now in her 70s, as is he, and wanted to prove that she wasn't a liar. $5 million in damages for abuse and defamation says that she's not a liar. He says he's going to appeal. He gave a video deposition. He didn't attend court, though, but he's played this off on his Social Truth media network and statements overnight as, you know, this is yet another, you know, it's a witch hunt. It's all the usual claims that we expect. You know, it's a New York court. What do you make of it? Is this a surprise to me? Did anyone think he didn't go around sexually abusing people? He's admitted this.
That's kind of the thing. I sort of throw up my hands in despair when it comes to Donald Trump, because you can set out all the facts that, yes, it's not a criminal case, it's a civil case. Yes, it's in New York, which is very politically motivated.
Yeah.
We don't have a justice system like they do, where it can be very politically motivated.
I mean, they changed the law to allow the statute of limitations to be changed.
But at exactly. But at the same time, it is Donald Trump, and we all remember the audio clip of him admitting that you can go around assaulting people if you are somebody like Donald Trump. So where to fall on the side of this? You know, you can be very sceptical about the motivations of lots of people in their animus towards Donald Trump, but at the same time, it's Donald Trump. Of course, it's entirely plausible that he would do this, and of course that he would try, as part of his defence, to simply defame and lie about the person, because that's what he does. He's on the record of doing that sort of thing as well. So, again, I think probably the finding that, OK, we can't say that he raped this person, but on the balance of evidence, he probably did, you know, go a little far. He probably did sexually assault. It's probably where most people are sat going, unlikely possibility. Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Except we get this impression that the Trump fanatics, his base, of which there are tens of millions in America, they don't believe. They do believe all of this stuff is lies. Now, that's the bit I can understand. I really don't get the sort of... I can understand if you say, yeah, he does all these things. He's an appalling human being, which he is. I'm sorry, he's an appalling human being.
A very funny but appalling human being.
Yeah, I mean, again, but there's a lot more sinister to it in terms of what he has actually done to people over the years than him just being sort of quite amusing and having a funny, you know, funny orange makeup. But I can understand they say, but what he's going to do in terms of the things that I believe in, whether it's, you know, appointing Conservatives to the Supreme Court on abortion rights, religious rights, or other issues, or, you know, you're just very rich and you want your tax cuts. I don't know, whatever it is, or you don't like a lot of what, I mean, I don't like an awful lot of what, well, I mean, I don't think I like virtually anything that Biden does in terms of, you know, his net zero policies. I know they're not going for net zero, but still insane policies on that front, and also all the identity politics stuff. So people could say, well, I'm going to vote for him anyway. I get that. But what I don't get is the people who say, oh, no, this is all lies. I mean, he's admitted in his own words that he does this sort of thing.
I think a lot of people in the US, of course, very, very, very large aspects of the US is very religious, and that is a lot of his base. But
that's the thing I don't get. He's a multi-divorce, multi-affairs, on record, these affairs.
The only way that people like that...
And the grabbing women by the hee-haw.
The extremities, yes.
Yes, and all the things he's said and done, and yet... They're saying that because they're religiously, you know, there's a zealotry, they support him.
Yes, it's because the Democratic establishment is in favour of so many things that most Conservatives in America are opposed to, that he is their only horse in the race. But how do you square that with your moral outlook? You simply have to pretend it doesn't exist, because you can't, in any good conscience.
And they just do that.
And to be honest, I think it's the same that the Democrats do as well. You know, it doesn't matter what Donald Trump had done whilst he was in the presidency. He was always going to be the devil. Yes. The deals that he did that were promising, didn't happen.
And there were actually a number of things he did when he called out things like NATO and you know, countries in Europe not paying their fair share and things like that. He was actually right. I have to say, I always had a rule that, you know, I praised anything he did that was good, and I criticised. I judge people just what they do and what they say. I'm really old-fashioned like that. But again, they've got Ron DeSantis as a viable great alternative as a Republican candidate, a candidate who has proven himself to have appeal across the political divide. He had a 20% boost in his vote in Florida as governor, and that is in a Democrat state that he has managed to turn red, to turn to vote Republican. And I don't understand why Donald Trump has still got this hold. The key thing here is, does this affect his presidential bid? His base won't be affected, but floating voters, the middle America that does decide elections, they may very well be. So the key thing is that he can still win the Republican nomination, particularly if there's a wide field, and of course he's just going to garner his 23% or whatever. It makes it hard for someone like Ron DeSantis to come up as just the simple alternative, one man versus one man, and they need to keep it as just two men the whole way through. That's the only way you've got a chance of getting Ron DeSantis. But at the point that he goes up against Joe Biden, realistically, the polls would tell us that Biden would win. That said, Biden is a bit of a busted flush.
A bit of a busted flush. I mean, this is why Donald Trump feels that he can do this, because Joe Biden doesn't remember where he is half of the time. There's the whole Afghanistan debacle behind Joe Biden. Looks like there might well be charges brought against his son for his business dealings as well.
There should be,
Joe Biden is not a good candidate, and for some reason they insist that Kamala Harris will still be the vice president. And that's the thing. If you're Donald Trump, you're looking at that and going, last time around, I admitted to committing sexual assault and I got elected against Hillary Clinton. This guy is worse. Actually, when he was a clean slate, when he was Obama's VP, okay, I lost to the whiter guy because I'd had whiter than white because I'd had a bad run. But now everybody's seen what this guy is.
And
actually, I reckon I've got a chance.
There is so much coming out about the Biden family finances that, again, if he was investigated in his family investigated in the same way that Donald Trump has been, come on.
If his name was Trump.
If his name was Trump, I mean, what he did, I mean, again, you just swap those two names. If you just, in fact, I think if you went to most, certainly American media, and you described things that are big question marks about the Biden family, but you said Trump had done it, they would say this is an outrage and a crime and this person is unfit to be president. And yet, but also the other thing, key line, vote Biden, get Kamala Harris. I mean, the woman is an idiot. I mean, she's an idiot. This is what happens when you appoint someone to the job because of what's in their pants and what pigmentation they've got in their skin. That is not a good way to choose people to run a country.
And the very fact that the Democrats do this, have done this, feel that they can do this, is why you will get a hardening of the conservative right in America behind Trump, because there isn't an alternative. They cannot, in any good conscience, vote for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. If you gave them a sort of a conciliatory candidate, a better candidate, which they thought, Rust Belt Joe Biden was, then you can win. But now that everybody sees he's not that.
Well, that was the deal, wasn't it, for Americans? That actually, look, they're going to put up the sort of least extreme, nutty Democrat. And then he went in, and within hours, he'd signed a whole load of presidential directives where the whole trans stuff and racial stuff. I mean, completely went against the sort of implicit pact with the American people that it was all going to be calm and normal for a bit.
The adults would be back in the room. Oh, by the way, Afghanistan's on fire and people are falling out of planes. It was, the Joe Biden of 20 years ago is what they were promised, and they got the Joe Biden of today.
But again, he was vice president. And again, the reason why he tried to be president many times and had not become president. Well, a question I'm asking you today, I'd love to hear from you. As the US Civil Court has ruled that Donald Trump sexually abused a woman in the 1990s. Is this the end of his 2024 presidential bid? And tell us why it is or why it isn't. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Tweet me at TalkTV.